Welcome back, everybody. MUFC versus everybody. I am your host, Sean, as always, and I do appreciate you stopping by. I do appreciate you checking out the videos. I am seeing those watch hours go up, and I'm seeing some likes. I like what I see. I really do appreciate it, and it makes me excited. Makes me think maybe, I'm not totally full of it. Maybe I have a little bit of an idea of what I'm talking about, or maybe you guys just think I'm an idiot and you just want to show all your friends that this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. That's cool too. That's fine. Um, get more of your friends to look at it and make fun of me, right? But yeah, obviously, you know, not rocking the United jersey today. I decided to go ahead and represent Livonia City Football Club. They compete in the Midwest Premier League here in Michigan, and they're a good little semi-pro team. I had the fortune of being a board member with them for 2 seasons, and it was really a great experience. Got to see behind the scenes on a lot of how clubs at this level are run, the ins and outs, work with sponsorships and things like that. It is a challenge. So big up to all the various leagues throughout the U.S. The soccer pyramid here in the U.S. Midwest Premier League. It's a grassroots league. Fees are low, and they try to make it sustainable, so they can get the sport can expand the reach of the sport throughout the country and not make it just a pay as you play kind of thing, which is kind of what it is in the country. So big up Livonia City, up the Wheats, and I will of course be checking more matches out this season. I may not be part of the board anymore, but I will be cheering on from the sidelines. So big up the Wheats. Before I do get started, big up also to the United women's team today for their FA Cup semifinal win over Chelsea, and booking a trip to the women's FA Cup final at Wembley against Spurs, I believe. So big up to the United women's team. Both the women's team and the men's team could actually be in the FA Cup final this year. So interesting. I do back the women probably more than the men's first team, but we'll see how it goes. How's everybody doing? Another day removed from the Bournemouth match, and our recent results in general. What I've heard helps those low feelings, right? Those crippling emotions, the feelings after these results. What helps? Hitting the like button, subscribing to the channel if you're new, and checking me out on Twitter, MUFC versus everybody. It's true. It does help. I read it on the internet, so it must be true. But right, the struggle is real as a United fan these days. So I don't want to spend more time talking about those results. We already kind of took a deep dive into that. Don't want to point fingers anymore, assign responsibility. I don't want to talk about the problems. Let's move on. Suffice it to say, when it comes to Manchester United, this summer is crucial, and it's vital that we improve the squad. Really, really vital. We've already discussed some priority positions. Obviously, we went through defensive midfielders, left backs, center backs, and strikers. If you haven't yet watched those videos, please go back, check them out, give them a like, and leave a comment, with what your thoughts are. I did decide though to do one more in that little mini series. I know we said we wrapped it up, but I think that it's worth exploring a little bit more. One more category. So that's what we're going to do today while we've got some time in between, now and match of the weekend. So we could talk about targets, we could talk about rumors and links to players all day and night, right? It's United. We're pretty much attached to every transfer rumor there is, because that's not only what generates clicks, but it's also what drives up, contract negotiation talks, drives up fees, drives up transfer fees, because that's what we're here for. We're glad to do our part. But when it comes to the United transfer business, obviously we have to address the very large, very intrusive FFP limited fund shaped elephant in the room that's going to be difficult to get around. In addition, right now United are spending a bit of money paying for the services of Jason Wilcox and Dan Ashworth, and hypothetically, if they decide to sack Eric Ten Hag with a year left in his contract, United is going to have to pay him off for that as well. So these are, upwards 30-40 million of unplanned costs. That's a player, basically. And so a lot of that's not on Ineos. A lot of it is on Ineos. A lot of it's not on Ten Hag. Some of it is. Everybody walked into the mess that's been accumulating for the last decade, and we are where we are because of it. You know, we've got debt, we've overpaid in fees and transfer fees, agent fees. We still owe players. We were still paying off David Moyes until recently. I mean, you can't write this stuff. So hopefully we have players that we can actually move on, but I think a very few of them are going to actually give us any sort of profit over the course of the last few years. I think at Greenwood, potentially McTominay if we decide to sell McTominay, but I think that at least from what I've read, it was never a we want to sell McTominay. It's if somebody makes an offer of this amount, that's what it will take. It's like the make me move feature on Zillow, right? Like I don't want to move, but make me move. Give me an offer and then we'll talk kind of a thing. But he would represent profit, and I think there's an outside chance that Casemiro might get some profit, but I doubt it. We did pay like 70 million for Casemiro, and that's only if a Saudi club comes in for him. But he's not playing like someone who's going to give us any profit right now. So, I mean, he was a ghost against Bournemouth. I think there are some who might also add Marcus Rashford to that list. I think that would depend a lot on what happens with the manager in the summer. Let's say hypothetically, Eric Ten Hag is sacked and like a Graham Potter comes in. Well, Graham Potter at Brighton anyway, where he kind of earned that reputation, played a 3-4-2-1 with kind of two attacking midfielders right behind a striker. So you had to imagine that Højlund would be that number 9, and maybe like Mount, perhaps Bruno would be behind them. So what does that leave Marcus Rashford? Where does that leave Antony, Sancho, Garnacho, kind of a thing? I think it's hard to gauge too much on his time at Chelsea because a lot of that was Bowley kind of controlled, but we'll see, you know. And I think that Rashford's body language, his off-pitch behavior at times this season, and just his performances, I think that there are a fair few United fans who wouldn't mind seeing the back of him. And again, that's pure profit. All that being said, basically United are skint at the moment, and while some of the targets that we've already explored and ones that I've shared with you that I've been looking at, they wouldn't be very expensive. I think the most expensive one had like a 34 million release clause, right? You might maybe like Onana and Branthwaite, but we've already known that those have been in the media for a little while. Our limited funds, when comparison to our need for better players, right, means we're going to have to get creative in the market. With that in mind, right, I'd like to take some time today to offer up a few what I call wild card targets, you know, ones that are just bargains, players who are available for free this summer, players who are entering the last year of their contract in the summer, players who no one really knows about. You know, remember, no one really knew who Moises Caicedo was, you know, before Brighton snapped him up. You know, Enzo Fernandez, before he went to Benfica, was at River Plate, and same with Julian Alvarez. These guys weren't really well known, and they became well known. I mean, like I said in my last video, United need to scout players like Enzo at River Plate, and not when he already makes the move to Benfica and will cost 100 million. We need to be better about that. Like we need, like, our recruitment structure needs to remember that scout is also a verb, right? Not just a title. Like parent is also a verb, not just a title. Parents actually have to do stuff. Scouts need to do stuff. I think our scouts sound like a bunch of kids playing Ultimate Team who've never watched a match in their lives, and they're just going for the highly rated players. And it's, I mean, that's where we're at, right? So keep in mind too, there's no such thing as a free signing. I know I said free signings, no such thing as a free signing. You know, bonuses for signing on, agent fees to convince a player to choose United over another club, that's got to be considered as well. Sometimes it can be pretty hefty depending on the player. So before we dive in, again, don't forget to smash the like button. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new. Hit the notification bell if you want to be the first to know when some of these new videos drop. And let's get started. Oh, I'm going to get slaughtered for trying to pronounce this guy's name again. So I mentioned him a little bit in one of the earlier videos. Tosin Adarabioyo. Did I get it that time? Somebody give me a thumbs up or a like in the video if I got it that time. So we touched upon him a little bit. 26-year-old center back at Fulham. He's massive, 6'5", tall, fast, really good in the air. English, and he's from Manchester, so he fits that whole Sir Jim, you know, let's put the Manchester back in Manchester United campaign, right? Contract expires this summer. He's in the top 10% for aerial duels, which we're awful at United. We don't win first balls. We're not great on set pieces. He gets a lot of touches in the opposition box, likely from those set pieces, which we're awful at. See where I'm getting here? Spurs reportedly have approached him. I don't know if he would want to go to Spurs because it's doubtful that he would get a lot of play time. They just bought Dragusin, Van de Ven in the summer. They've still got Romero. And so I don't know if he would be guaranteed any sort of massive minutes at Spurs, but stranger things have happened. I think a lot of it might have to do with European football, but when you're at Fulham, playing in the Conference League is still better than not playing anywhere in Fulham. No offense to Fulham, no disrespect. Fulham destroyed us, so I humble myself to Fulham there. I do like this guy a lot. I think he would be, if we can move on, I think we've got Varane, Lindelof, Maguire, whose futures are kind of up in the air. I think you could definitely offload one or two of those, keep one. If Johnny Evans sticks around, I don't know. We've got Camboire, we've got Martinez. I think we need this free signing would come in and he could start, honestly, depending on what happens with the other signings. So keep that one, keep an eye on him. Lloyd Kelly, I briefly mentioned him in another video as well. 25-year-old English center back, plays for Bournemouth. Progressive defender. He's got a good number of shot creating actions per 90, good progressive carries, and he's in the top 5% for progressive passes received. Not made, but received. So he's getting a little higher up. He's receiving the ball and kind of acting as that go-between and then moving it forward to create. He's fast enough to play in a high line that Ten Hag likes. He's fast enough for this league, and I think he's a good option. Newcastle have been linked recently, but then so have United. I think that there's going to be a lot of players that United's name gets attached to, so it's really difficult to sift through what's legit and what's not when it comes to the rumors. But Lloyd Kelly could be another one for free to come in and do a job, basically, and really strengthen, again, when we talk about raising the floor, I think he would be better than Lindelof for sure. And that's not disrespecting Lindelof. Lindelof is a good defender in his own right. I just don't think he's cut out for the league. And so I think Lloyd Kelly could be a good option. This one might divide people, but Adrien Rabiot, 29 years old now, French midfielder, obviously plays for Juventus. Very good on the ball, near the top 10% for progressive carries. Gets forward to, he's in the top 7% for touches in the opposition box, Rabiot. So he's not just kind of a holding midfielder like you used to be maybe at PSG. He's carrying the ball a little bit, getting in advanced positions. Of course, we have been linked with him in the past. There was that talk of Murtaugh and Arnold and Woodward or whoever running over to Turin to talk about maybe signing him. Obviously, with that, at that point, the sticking point was his agent, and I don't want to speak poorly about anyone's mom, but his mother is his agent, and she does have a history of making negotiations a bit difficult, especially when it comes to wages and bonuses and things like that. Newcastle are reportedly interested. I know Newcastle are trying to kind of improve their squad depth, but they have a lot of really good players at Newcastle. There's rumors that Bruno Guimaraes might be leaving. They still have Tonali kicking around somewhere, so he could come in and do a job, but we'll see what happens there. We're linked again, obviously, but it is a strange one if the links are legit now, because we were linked in the past before Ineos arrived, and we're linked again, but I don't know if that's just paper talk, right? Because if you remember, Sir Jim was really highly critical of the Casemiro signing, the wages, and the age, and basically the ROI on something like that. And Rabiot would basically be the same thing. I think Rabiot could do a job if the wages could be handled and brought down to a more realistic level. I think Rabiot would instantly come in and improve our squad, and you might not even have to worry about a Casemiro replacement for another couple of years, because Rabiot could come in, hold up. He does still have some defensive bite, but he is very good at carrying the ball, and so I do think he could be a good option. But we'll see what happens with that one. Next up is Rafa Silva, 30-year-old forward, plays for Benfica. He turned down an offer recently from a club in Qatar in the summer. Very good player. He would offer a lot of experience on our attack, could really help Højlund learn a little bit. Obviously, there's that Portuguese link up with Bruno, with Dalot. Top 6% in the last year for non-penalty goals and assists. He's a very good chance creator, very good ball progressing player. 86th percentile for progressive passes, top 10% for progressive carries. top 3%, 97th percentile for touches in the opposition box. What basically tells you he can move the ball, he progress the ball, and he can make himself an option in advanced positions. He finds dangerous positions in advanced areas to create chances for Benfica. There's been some links already with Lazio, who were reportedly interested. Lazio looked set to lose Pedro, and they look set to lose Felipe Anderson, so they could use some strengthening, and there's already links there. I think he could be a really good addition for United for a season or two. I think he brings something different, and plus he brings experience, and like I said, he's got the Portuguese connection, so it does help. So that's Rafa Silva. Next on my list is one I think people are kind of sleeping on, but I think this could be a really shrewd piece of business if it's something that we could get done. It's Wilfred Ndidi. He's 27 years old now. I remember Wilfred Ndidi when Leicester were in their pomp. He was just this midfield destroyer. I think he led the Premier League in interceptions at one point too. Like, he was a beast a few years back with Leicester. Although since Leicester have been relegated and managerial changes have occurred, he's been more box to box than just patrol his defensive third and win the ball. He gets involved in the attack a lot more frequently now. He's got 2 goals and 5 assists this season. He's in the top 5% for assists for midfielders in his position in the top leagues. Top 20% for progressive carries. Top 1%, so better than 99% of other players in his position for touches in the opposition box. And top 4% for progressive passes received. So again, he's getting in advanced positions and getting the ball. He's carrying the ball, and he's getting himself into dangerous areas now. He's not just a strict defense number 6 anymore, which is good because he could still do that. He could still offer defensive output, but he's added a couple more bows to his string this season, which is good. It's rare that a player in their mid-20s can do that. And so he's kind of taken it by the scruff of the neck and just went with it. He still puts in solid interceptions numbers, like I said, so he's not just like neglecting any sort of defensive output. And he's still young enough at 27 to be relied upon for another 4 or 5 years even. And he instantly walks into our midfield, especially if we lose Casemiro. He's better than McTominay, right? He'll offer more than Eriksen. He will offer a bit more stability and control and defensive power in that midfield. And like Casemiro, he's able to get forward and contribute. I think it would be a very smooth transition for him too. He's already used to the league. So keep an eye on Wilfred Ndidi. Again, people are sleeping on him. Next up is Daichi Kamada, 27-year-old Japanese midfielder, currently at Lazio. He left Eintracht Frankfurt this summer, went to Lazio, but he's already looking like he's ready to go. He only signed a 1-year deal with Lazio, and it doesn't look like anyone's interested in staying there. He can play a variety of roles. I've seen him play a little bit more like a false 9. I've seen him play a little deeper. I've seen him play wide at Frankfurt. He can do a little bit of everything. So it hasn't worked out at Lazio. I've heard that he's actually a bit introverted, which I can relate to, being a bit of an introvert myself, which it does make things difficult, especially if there's a language barrier. I mean, you have to remember how many different nationalities exist in a given club, and it could be very hard if you come in and maybe you're only Japanese player, especially and your English is not great. That could be a bit hard, especially if you're already kind of naturally introverted. And so I could see how that could be difficult. His numbers are still solid. He gets into advanced positions. He makes himself an option, top 6% for touches in the opposition box, 86th percentile for progressive passes received. So he's playing a little more attacking role at Lazio when he plays. He's very good on the ball as well. He's got good passing, good dribbling numbers. So he's a good all-around midfielder who can fill in a variety of roles. And I think he could be a good, shrewd little signing. I know Borussia Mönchengladbach have been linked, and I think Fenerbahce have been linked to Kamada as well. But again, I do think he offers something a little bit more than McTominay, and I do think he'd improve our depth in midfield as well. Even if you bring him in on just make an initial 2-year contract to see how it goes, I think that there's nothing wrong with that, because then he could still go to Fenerbahce or something after that if it doesn't work out. But I think he does improve us, and he does offer a bit of more depth and a bit, another option in case we need to rotate. Next up is a name some people probably are familiar with, but we'll touch upon him anyway. He's Youssouf Fofana, 25-year-old French midfielder, plays for Monaco. He's entering the final year of his contract this summer. So this summer he'll have a year left. He could be acquired for a cut price fee though this summer if Monaco don't want to lose him for free. It doesn't sound like he's going to be staying at Monaco but he does have a year left on his contract. We could offer a little bit of a fee this summer, and I think we could get him for a snip. Solid numbers all around for him. He's just a good box-to-box type midfielder. I know he's at one point he was more defensive, but he's a little bit more box-to-box these days. He is still in the top 12% when it comes to interceptions. He's a good ball progressor as well, though, with top 6% progressive passes, top 10% successful take-ons. So he's good at winning the ball, and he's good at carrying the ball or picking out a teammate further up the pitch, which is what more do you want from basically a number 6 and number 8 hybrid, basically a box-to-box midfielder? I mean, it's great to have that kind of versatility in your game. I know that Milan were reportedly interested, and of course United have been linked as well. Surprise, surprise. He's a very solid, potentially very cheap midfielder, and he instantly improves our squad. And I think he instantly walks into the starting 11 if Casemiro is gone. I think he skips right past McTominay in the line, and I think he instantly comes in and does a job and does it well. So now we're going to talk a little bit about some hidden gems. Those were some of the players that were available for free this summer, and then some that are entering the last year of their contract, like Fofana. So now we're going to talk about very cheap, young hidden gems who have high potential, in my opinion, have a really high ceiling, who could be, like the next Moises Caicedo, the next Enzo Fernandez, the next Julian Alvarez, those kind of players who were picked up by Brighton for a snip, by Benfica for a snip, by City for a snip, and then turn around and look at him now. Caicedo went for what, 100 million to Chelsea, Fernandez as well, and then Julian Alvarez went to City. I forget how much they paid, but I know it wasn't much. But these are the kind of players we should be looking at in that regard. So first on my list is one that I've been watching for a little while. His name is Oscar Zambrano. He's a 19-year-old Ecuadorian defensive midfielder. He's a straight out and out number 6. He's actually been called the next Moises Caicedo. Obviously, the connection or the similarities are there. He plays for Ito Quito in Ecuador. He often plays as the lone 6, which is really impressive for someone as young as he is. It reminds me of Boubacar Kamara when he was still in France. He was captaining Marseille as a teenager in that lone number 6 role. That's impressive. And Kamara is a great player. It's unfortunate he picked up that injury. But Villa don't look like they miss him too much today, do they? Arsenal, good evening. Anyway, it's no surprise that Zambrano's been linked with a ton of clubs, including United, of course, Bournemouth, Luton Town, Rangers, and Celtic. Bournemouth were actually on the verge of signing him. There was a £4 million price tag, it was rumored, when Bournemouth were pretty much a lock, but it just didn't end up happening. I think that was right before Ecuador's league started, and so I don't think they wanted to lose him. So he has a weird clause in his contract, though. Apparently, I think he himself, Zambrano himself, in his contract, is entitled to 15% of his transfer fee when he does make his next move. And while it could be tempting, right, to say, oh, United's coming, I don't care about that clause in my contract. I want to just go to United. It's my dream move. Apparently, his agents or his representatives are kind of urging him to stick to his guns, though, obviously because they get a little more as well. So, more money, more problems, right? There's also a bit of a hiccup with Zambrano. This might be a deal breaker for some people, but it's still not fully decided. So he also has been recently banned for doping in an incident that the president of his club and he himself have reported as a one-time accidental situation, due to a mix-up of medications, apparently, which is what we hear all the time. So you never know. He's a 19-year-old. Who knows? It's hard to find a whole lot of information on the case itself, but that's what I did find. Sounds like he and his club, Ito Quinto, are about to appeal the ban, though, and hopefully, it works out unless he's guilty, and then he deserves to be punished for, breaking the rules. But we'll see what happens. He's still a really good player. Hopefully it works out for him. Hopefully, he doesn't miss too much football, but we have seen it happen before. Pogba. Next on my list is Lucas Gornadoaf. He is a 20-year-old French defensive midfielder who plays for RB Salzburg. He was signed for a record fee for Salzburg from Saint Etienne in Liga 2, second-tier French league. Sorry, allergies. So basically another Red Bull Group hidden gem. Red Bull Salzburg, Red Bull Leipzig, they are notorious for just identifying these players and kind of developing them and then flipping them for a solid fee. And this one looks like another winner for them. He's been a regular in Salzburg's starting 11 since signing, despite his young age. So he came in as a 19, 20-year-old and just boom, immediately right in starting 11. Very similar to N'Golo Kante. He doesn't seem to get tired. It's like he's got like two sets of lungs. He's just always gets around the pitch. Covers nearly every blade of grass in an effort to win the ball. He breaks up play. He finds a teammate, and he's got a very, very impressive passing range for a defensive midfielder. Um, he's going to be a bit more expensive probably than the other younger players on this list, but expensive for that is probably not going to be very expensive in the grand scheme of things, especially for a club in the Premier League. But he is worth the risk, in my opinion, and I think he'd be one to keep an eye out for. Next on my list is the last one. I think this is the last one. We're already at the last one. So this is a guy, another midfielder. His name is Marcel Ruiz. He's a 23-year-old Mexican midfielder. He plays for Toluca in Liga MX. Very good all-around midfielder. Just a good player to come in, squad player. For some mid-table Premier League teams, for instance, he might even walk into the starting 11. But he's good all around, can put in a shift on and off the ball. He was fifth in Liga MX last season for tackles per 90, and right now he's in the top 10% for tackles per 90 on average. He's able also to keep the ball moving when he wins it. He's very vertical with his passing. He's always looking to break the lines. Excuse me. Got an 87% pass completion, which is in the top 15% right now. And he averages more than 6 progressive passes per 90, which is in the 72nd percentile. He also makes himself an option in advanced positions. So again, kind of that box-to-box all-around midfielder. He's in the 78th percentile for touches in the opposition area and progressive passes received. So he's getting advanced. He's making himself an option to link up play and try to create for his team. He was linked with Cruz Azul ahead of the January window, well, our January window, but for them it's like right before their season starts, basically. But Toluca's sporting director actually came out and was very adamant that they're not interested in selling him. He's their star midfielder, especially right before the season starts, and they just extended his contract in December. So you don't know how much he's going to cost. Transfermarket.com has his current value at 6 million euros, but Toluca don't generally sell their players for big fees, or at least it could be a case of what is a big fee for us is not a big fee for them, and vice versa. So 6 million for a top European club would probably still be a massive amount for Toluca in terms of selling a player. So still, even 10 million, 12 million would be a bargain for any club, especially United for Ruiz. If Ten Hag is still here, we know Ten Hag, it's kind of a Dutch thing. We've seen a lot of Mexican players do really well in the Eredivisie. If you remember, Herving Lozano was at PSV, and even Ajax, Ten Hag had Edson Alvarez, who was pretty much a lock for starting 11 week in, week out. And we've seen him come to West Ham and do a good job there too. So I think that Ruiz could be a good buy. All you FC24 career mode players, though, if you do manager mode, he's a free agent and when you start your career, so go find him real quick and sign him. He's a good player. So those are just a few of what I would call my wild card targets. Some cheap ones, obviously. Some of them are available for free in the summer, and then some are ending their final year of their contracts. You will be working on limited funds, like I said, United, and we need to take advantage of these type of deals because where it could be, we could sign 3 or maybe 4 players with the limited funds. If we can get it on top of some of these free deals, especially if we could sell some homegrown players like Greenwood, we could bring in a couple more players for very, very cheap. What that also does is ensure we have more money for the priority targets. We don't want to get into another Kim Min-jae situation, right, or an Amrabat situation where, yeah, he proved maybe not to be great, but we ended up signing him on loan because we just didn't have the funds. We ended up getting Evans and not Kim Min-jae because we didn't have the money. And we end up waiting until August to sign players that we identify in June so our owners can save 2 months of wages and not have to pay for it. This is what we have to work with at United. This is what Ten Hag has to deal with. This is what every manager's had to deal with. I mean, David Moyes only got one signing on his first summer window, and it was Marouane Fellaini on deadline day. I'm not disrespecting Fellaini. I've been a strong advocate for Fellaini. He scored some very important goals for us, and I've never seen anyone with the chest control that he has. But he was signed on deadline day, and it's not exactly like he was a floor raiser and a star player at the time. So this is what we have to work with. Raising the floor of our squad, like I've said, needs to be the priority. We need to improve the depth. The drop off in quality when we lose players to injuries is shocking. It just is. Part of that is Ten Hag. Yes, I've said it before. He's trying to stick with his system when he doesn't have the players so they look worse than they are. But can't help the fact that you're trying to play out from the back and you lose Lisandro Martinez. You're relying on Harry Maguire to be able to play out against the high pressing side, and it just doesn't work. If we can get Wilcox and Ashworth and Barada in their roles sooner than later and start working, start making connections, start getting deals done, I hope to see some clever deals like this from us this summer. Who knows what's going to happen though, right? What do you think of my wild card signings? Do you agree with them? Do you disagree? Do you have some of your own that I did not mention? If so, let me know in the comments as always. Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're new. And don't forget to go check us out on MUFC versus Everybody. Once again, big up. Congratulations to the Man United women team for making it to the Women's FA Cup final. We'll be cheering you guys on from afar. And big up Livonia City Football Club. They start their season next month. So up the Wheats. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks.